Praise be to the one Almighty God. True talents are something that we receive from our jiva, guided by the power of God in the latihan. Some people are born with true talents, with a true talent usually, and they use it at a very early age, even in childhood. But most of us don't have our true talents yet until we come into Subha, when our human soul is reawakened and begins to be purified. In my case, the first thing that I received that was anything like a talent was when I was a house painter. And I began to feel the latiham while I was doing my house painting. And I didn't understand why I was feeling it, but I was just happy to feel it. But I noticed that people would watch me while I was painting, and they seemed to feel something just watching me painting a wall. So that was an indication that something was going on, but I still didn't really understand what was happening. The next thing that I received was I began making drawings with a pencil or a pen on a piece of paper. And I still didn't understand what that meant. But so the only way that I used it was I would ask myself a question and my hand would make a drawing. And if the drawing was nice and flourishing, it was like a yes that I received. And if the drawing was very small and not much there, it was like receiving a no. I didn't understand anything about rajas, and it could have been used for making a raja, but it wasn't in my understanding, so I never did that. And then later on, I started I received the movement of playing the violin in Latihan. And I thought to myself, well, that maybe I should learn to play the violin, because my father was a child prodigy violinist. And so I wrote to Bapa and I asked him about that. And he wrote back and he said that the meaning of the movement of playing the violin in Latihan is that the human voice is the true human violin. And it's with the human voice that we can heal ourselves. And later on in Subud, I actually had that experience when I was in Chalandak in 1971. I got sick and I received not to go to a doctor, and I just fell asleep. And I woke up with a complete understanding of how to heal myself with my voice, using the chromatic musical scale. So I found a note that related to my chest, my lungs. And as soon as I started singing that note, the mucus in my lungs started breaking up, and I would have to spit it out every now and then. And I also received that I would completely heal myself in 2 days. And that's exactly what happened. So And that was also after I had received songs. I was traveling around the country after the World Congress in Tokyo. And I was staying at a Subud Brothers apartment in San Francisco, and it was during Ramadan, and I was just sitting up late, and a song came down, went into through my head, the top of my head, and went inside of me. And it was a song about Papa. There is a man who comes from the east. He wears Western clothes. He brings a gift far beyond compare, grace for all mankind. It's a chance for equality, peace and harmony, the brotherhood of man. There is a man who comes from the east. He wears Western clothes. Ordinary man, ordinary man. He's an ordinary man. Some say he's a prophet, a messenger of God. But he says he's just a man, an ordinary man. Bapa is the man who comes from the east. He wears Western clothes. Subud is a gift far beyond compare, grace for all mankind. It's a chance for equality, peace and harmony, the brotherhood of man. Bapa is the man who comes from the east. He wears Western clothes. Ordinary man, ordinary man. He's an ordinary man. Ordinary man, ordinary man. He's an ordinary man. I sang that song for Bapa in 1971 at his birthday in Chalandak. And when I started singing, Bapa closed his eyes and went into a deep Ladihan. And I could feel all kinds of things going on in myself. And every now and then I had the thought, am I doing it right? And Bapa would open his eyes and smile and go, yeah, yeah. And then he would close his eyes again and go back into Ladihan. So that changed my life, because up until that time, I couldn't really sing in front of an audience or anything like that. But after that, nobody could shut me up. I could sing anywhere. In 1967, I had a dream. And in the dream, I was in a hotel. And I didn't know where the hotel was, but it was this big, big hotel. And the people, the Subud people were there. And they were all acting crazy. They were saying, let's go to my room and do Ladihan and this and that. But I remembered the dream I had. And in the dream, I just felt quiet and waited for Bapa to come. So I just said, no, I'm going to go to my room and wait for Bapa, because he hadn't arrived yet. He was going to arrive later that evening or so. So I went to my room and I fell asleep. And I woke up. And when I woke up, I was completely enveloped by this light feeling. And I thought, wow, what is that? That really surprised me. And I was afraid to move because I was afraid that that feeling would go away. But eventually I thought to myself, well, I have to go to the bathroom, so I better I better move. And the light feeling just stayed with me no matter what I did. And so I got dressed and I felt moved to go out into the hotel. And everybody had gone to sleep by then. And I was just sitting and feeling this light feeling. And it got to be around dawn, and I felt moved to go outside. I went outside and I was made to sit on a wet bench. And I was looking at the sun rising. And as the sun was rising, I was surprised that I could look directly at the sun. And then I realized there was something in front of the sun that was blocking my view to the sun. And whatever this thing was, it began putting on like a dance in front of the sun. And this went on for quite a while. And then eventually, as the sun rose, this creature, whatever it was, disappeared. And then I couldn't look at the sun anymore. And so I stopped looking at the sun. And later on, when I went to Chalandak in 71, Siddhartha told me that that was the spirit of Japan, and that he rises with the sun every morning. And that's why they call Japan the land of the rising sun. And he said, if I wanted to see bigger creatures, that I should go to India. There were many more bigger creatures in India. But I said, no, I wasn't looking for that one, so I'm not going to be looking for bigger ones in India. Anyway, when we do the Ladihan, after we go through our initial purification, eventually we start receiving human movements. And it's after receiving those human movements that we can put the Ladihan into our life. And we can also understand possibly what our true talent is based on the kind of movements that we make in the Ladihan. But if we don't put it into our life, then according to Bapa, after we die, we won't know what to do because we never put it into our life. So it's really important that we put the Ladihan into our life in no matter what we're doing. If we're just walking, if we're talking, if we're doing any kind of a job, we need to feel the Ladihan while we're doing it. And so it's really important that we do that. And obviously, my voice was one of my talents, and songs are another of my talents. And healing myself is another of my talents. So Bapa also said that a true human being has 5 different talents. And he usually only makes his living with one of them. So I made my living in sales. And it seemed like that was also one of my talents because I was able to sell very well. And eventually I wound up selling art and had my own galleries. And and represented Harold Hitchcock, who was a famous British artist, among other artists. I had an experience with Bapa before I went into, before I had the experience of having my own gallery. I went to the men's room in a restaurant that was closed, but they would leave it open because the other people in the courtyard used to use that men's room. And Bapa was standing in front of the men's room door. And he said to me, "I'm going to help you in the art business." And then he disappeared. And I thought, wow, this is really crazy. So I went back into the gallery that I was partnering with another Subud brother. And I told him what happened. And he started testing. And he said, yeah, it sounds like it's true receiving, you know. And shortly after that, we had to file bankruptcy. And I thought to myself, what kind of help is that Papa's going to give me? But actually, that brought me back to Carmel, where I got my own art gallery, and eventually wound up representing Harold Hitchcock and other artists. So it all worked out. Susila, Bodhidharma, a gift from God above. Susila, Bodhidharma, is filled with peace and love. Susila, Bodhidharma, the Holy Trinity, God's guidance in this world for all humanity. In this world is the power of God, guiding us both from near and from far. In this world and beyond every star. Susila means living in accordance with God's will. Buddhi is God's power deep within us still. Dharma means surrender to the one Almighty God with patience, acceptance, and faith that fills your heart. In this world is the power of God, guiding us both from near and from far. In this world and beyond every star. In this world and beyond every star. Allah. Praise be to the one Almighty God. Amen. That's it.